Welcome to the 905 podcast. I'm your girl, Savannah.
And I'm Charles.
All right, coach, you know the drill. I ask you about Nick Stauskas, and you tell me what you know about him.
Yeah, Saga City's very own shooter, NBA vet, ultimate pro, one of the trailblazers as far as Canadian basketball goes. In fact, it's one of those names that we don't always mention when we talk about Canadian NBA players and people, first round draft pick, people that are one of those guys that has set the path for so many other young Canadian talent.
He's a veteran coming onto this team with over 300 NBA games played, and that's a ton of experience to really bring down to this 905 team and really lead the way with his veteran presence on the floor. So, I'm looking forward to talking to him, getting to know him better. I don't know about you, Charles, but I'm ready to start this.
Let's go. Let's welcome Nick Stauskas.
Joining us now is Nick Stauskas, homegrown from Mississauga, repping the 905 this year. Nick, I don't even know where to begin to introduce you because your resume, it's heavy. Thank you for joining us here on the podcast.
No, thank you for having me. I'm excited to join you guys.
Nick, I'm going to start with something pretty special. You did something amazing this summer. What was it?
I got married this summer.
Hey.
In the middle of a worldwide pandemic, we somehow pulled off a wedding, and it turned out to be amazing. So was truly lucky to still be able to follow through with that, even though there was kind of all that chaos going on throughout the world. So definitely grateful for that.
Congratulations first and foremost to you and the lucky bride. How are you feeling, repping the 905 this season? This is where you're from. This is your hometown. This is Saga City.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird. Well, it's an honor, but it's definitely a little bittersweet, just considering it's the only year that they're not actually back in the 905 in Mississauga. Definitely would have been cool to kind of like be back home and play in front of, my family and friends a little bit more. But nonetheless, I'm excited to be a part of the squad, and I think we got big things ahead of us here in Orlando.
And we're definitely going to get to those big things. Before we do that, take us through, there was a time, I guess, that you were drafted in the first round. Not too many Canadians, I guess, at that time were having that kind of experience, right? Before you get to the draft, because I want to hear all about that for you, talk about basketball. You grew up loving who, your journey. Take us as a youngster. You played against Vince Carter. Let's hear about that.
Yeah, the Raptors every year they would have a open practice before the season started, where they would invite fans to come to the ACC to watch team go through just some drills and stuff like that. And I was lucky enough. I was about 10 years old. I was lucky enough to get chosen out of the crowd to come on the court, and I played with Vince Carter and Morris Peterson. I hope everyone remembers Mo Pete. He was a fan favorite. So yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite childhood memories. Just like being on that floor with the people that I idolized, and I already knew at that point that I wanted to play in the NBA, but that was one of those moments for me where even it kind of just pushed me over the edge, where I was like, hey, I'm going to dedicate myself and really do everything I possibly can to be in these guys' shoes, 10 years down the road. And I was fortunate enough to make that happen.
Did you score? Did you beat them? Did you
So,
get at least one hoop?
So, the game was, like that hot spot shooting where they have like those little like mats around the floor, and like each mat has like a different value of points. It was me and Morris Peterson versus Vince Carter and another kid. And obviously me and Morris Peterson won. But I made my first 3 shots. I remember I made a free throw, and then I made a high school 3, and then I stepped back and made an NBA 3. And I remember like the crowd kind of just being like stunned a little bit, almost not like a like Mike situation, but like being like, oh damn, this kid can play. And I remember I wore a headband that day too. I don't know why I wore a headband. It was like I knew I was gonna get picked to go on the floor. So I kind of like looked the part, but yeah, it was definitely a fun memory for me, just hitting those shots and having the crowd react and stuff.
And what, take us through your high school experience, because, you moved high schools a few times, and what went into that thought process, and just take us through that journey.
Yeah, so I started off going to Loyola Catholic High School in Mississauga, And when I was in grade 10, actually, the junior team was gonna get canceled. Just there was no teachers that had any interest in like supervising or coaching or anything like that. And obviously basketball being kind of like the main priority in my life, I was just kind of just like stunned, like, damn, like my high school won't even like support the basketball team. And like, here I am trying to get a scholarship to an NCAA school. And like, I can't even have a high school season. And, fortunately for me, my dad ended up stepping in and he helped coach the high school team with the supervision of one of the other teachers. And, we still were able to have a season. But after that year, I was kind of just more on board with finding something more serious in the United States geared towards getting a scholarship eventually to an NCAA school, because I knew that was really my avenue of making it to the NBA, the ultimate goal. So after I was about 15 years old, and I decided to leave to the US to go to a prep school. And at that time, Tristan Thompson and Corey Joseph, Mike Kabongo were a few names who had taken that path already. And they were going to like St. Benedict's and Finley Prep and, some prestigious schools. So that was kind of the map that I was following, trying to follow in their footsteps. And, I saw they got scholarships to Texas and whatnot. So for me, I'm like, hey, this is, I'm just next in line. I got to follow their footsteps and kind of make this same thing happen. So that was kind of the whole thought process behind those moves. And it ended up working out very well for me.
Extremely well, because you ended up at the Blue and Maize, right?
Yes.
Let me tell you why I know this. I was at Michigan, where you ended up, and I once made the mistake of saying blue and yellow, and then somebody snapped at me.
You can't say yellow. It's
not
yellow.
It's not yellow. Talk about that experience. You played there. You had a great run for a couple of years. Why did you choose that university?
They were one of the first schools to show significant interest in me, and obviously pretty close to home, as close as you can really get to Toronto. For my parents, it was only a 4-hour drive to come see some games, and I knew they would make that trip a lot, and I knew having them around would be very helpful for me as well. And then just Coach Beeline and the whole system he had there, I felt like I really fit into what he was trying to do. I felt like there would be a great opportunity for me to play right away, which was really important for me. And then also my mom, she really liked that it was a good academic school too. It wasn't so much like a factor for me, but she was like really happy that it was a good academic school and all that. So it really just checked all the boxes. I really felt like it was a perfect fit. And I ended up I think it was my junior year of high school, I ended up committing. So I didn't take any visits to any other schools or anything. I kind of just knew early on that Michigan was going to be a place for me. And my experience there was great. Like, honestly, to this day, playing in the NBA, achieving my goals and all that, like, that was great and all, but probably like two of my favorite years of my life were when I was at college at University of Michigan. Just so much fun. We had such a great team, such a great bond with my teammates. My freshman year playing in the national championship game and just having that experience of like March Madness. Everyone watches March Madness and you see like the thrill of those games, and then just getting to be a part of that and going so far in the tournament. As a young kid, 18, 19 years old, it was truly special, and it was something I'll never forget.
Is there any stories that stick out when you think back to your time at Michigan with your teammates?
Probably, the one that sticks out to me was, after my freshman year, we lost in the national championship game, and, it was bittersweet, like we made it all the way there. Such a successful season for a lot of us. And, you're sad you lose in the game, but also just proud that you were able to make it so far. And I just remember being so crushed after that game, like that we lost, like just being in tears in the locker room. And, just like sitting there and like making a commitment to myself. I was like, I'm going to get better this summer. And like, I'm not going to let this happen again. And I didn't take any time off. It was like, we definitely got back to campus and, people were congratulating us and you kind of like become a celebrity on campus. But for me, the mindset was like, man, I'm not going home all summer. Like, I stayed at school all summer long. I didn't go back to Toronto. I didn't go visit my family. And I was just in the gym with a couple of my other teammates who also stayed back with me. And it was just really cool. We all shared that same mindset of being so motivated to come back and achieve something even greater and to just better ourselves every day. And I think just that mindset kind of speaks towards the group and the bond that we had there. And again, that's something that I'll never forget, just sharing that bond with my teammates and spending those hours in the gym, blood, sweat, and tears. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what basketball is all about.
So hours in the gym, blood, sweat, and tears leads you to make a decision to leave after your second year. Talk about two things. One, the decision to leave and enter the draft, that process, and then draft night.
Yeah, the exciting times for sure. Very exciting times. Yeah, after that freshman year, really spending a lot of time in the gym, improving my game. I felt so ready, so confident coming into that second year, and really made a significant jump with my game and was able to, win Big Ten Player of the Year and still have, some solid success with our team overall. We won the Big Ten that year and made it to the Elite Eight. And just after the year that I had, I felt like I had achieved almost everything I had set out to do, whether that was, All-American or Big Ten Player of the Year, all those, kind of accolades that I wanted for myself, I achieved them. And at that point, I just felt like there wasn't much else for me to do other than win a national championship, if I were to come back. And, the NBA had always been the goal for me. So, just seeing the mock drafts and talking with, different agents and doing our research, doing our due diligence, it was kind of a no-brainer. I knew I was going to be selected in the first round, and my dreams would kind of become a reality at that point. So for me, I was, as tough as it was to leave Michigan, with how much fun I had there, it was super exciting for me and my family to finally be able to achieve my dreams. And heading into draft night, being at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, having a seat at one of those tables with my family and, seeing Adam Silver up there announcing the names, just like, you don't know, you don't know, when your name's going to be called. You don't know what city you're moving your life to. There's just so much unknowns coming into that evening. And, I had a couple of workouts with numerous different teams. So, I knew kind of a general, area of, what picks, I could possibly go to. But still just that excitement, that nervousness, just sitting there waiting to hear your name called was something that I'll never forget. And I remember the sixth pick in the draft was Marcus Smart to the Celtics. And that's when my agent was at the table, and that's when he received a phone call from the Kings, who were the eighth pick. And, they were about 10 minutes away, but they called my agent and said, hey, we're going to select you with with the eighth pick. And they just let me know ahead of time. And then it became like the waiting game. I know I'm going to get picked, but now I have to wait 10 minutes for the commissioner to call my name. And it was just such an exciting time for me and my family. We really had so much fun. We celebrated that night. And the rest is kind of history.
So whenever I watch the draft every year, I always think, I wonder if the guys are thinking when they're walking up on stage, don't trip up the stairs. What was going though through your head when you finally heard your name called and you got to have the golden handshake?
I honestly, I blacked out. I can't remember. I don't remember anything about the walk or I remember shaking Commissioner Silver's hand, but I don't remember what I said. I don't remember what he said. It was all just a blur to me. And I think it kind of just speaks to how excited I was at the time. You're not even processing what's really going on. But thank God I didn't trip. That would have been really embarrassing.
Did you sleep at all that night?
I did sleep a little bit, but I remember I actually had a very early flight to Sacramento the next day. And I remember there was no direct flight to Sacramento. So it was I was up at 6 a.m. to go to the airport, and I probably fell asleep at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I barely slept, but there's no way I could really rest that night with everything going on. I was just so excited.
And your phone must have been blowing up. Who was your first phone call from?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I think, to be honest, I think that night I didn't really answer my phone at all. I was just so in the moment with my family. I didn't want to sit there being texting and calling people all night. But definitely every single one of my friends, growing up, high school, college, all my coaches, everyone had reached out and congratulated me, and it was just an amazing feeling.
And, there's a lot of Canadians in the NBA now more than ever, but, you were one of the people that you can still call yourself almost a trailblazer for Canadians to be more prominent in the NBA. When you got drafted, did that ever cross your mind being, wow, I am one of the few Canadians, I'm almost representing my nation right now?
Yeah, it felt good. It felt really good to be a part of that up and coming wave of Canadians. I think the year before me, Anthony Bennett was taken #1, and then my year, Wiggins was taken #1, and I think Tyler Ennis was drafted shortly after me as well. So there was definitely a lot of us that were up and coming, but I just remember being super proud to be, one of those guys to represent the country and kind of starting this new wave. And even now, just looking at how many Canadians are, playing in the NCAA and playing in the NBA, it feels good to, even now there is funny story here in the bubble. There's a player who plays for the Charlotte Hornets G League team. And he's from, I believe, Nova Scotia, and he's a Canadian kid, and comes up to me and he was like, "Hey, Nick, I just want to let you know, like, it's just so nice to meet you. Like, I was such a big fan, like watching you at Michigan, and like, you're the reason why I'm here right now. And like, you were such an inspiration to me." And like, I forget about it sometimes that, this, me being a part of this wave of Canadians, we helped inspire, the next generation of kids to kind of come up and follow in our footsteps. So it feels good to be a part of something special like that.
Was that Nate Darling?
Yes, it's Nate.
Nate Darling playing with the Hornets. Quite a few Canadians on that staff as well.
Yeah.
As we all know, Jay Triano, Nate Mitchell. Okay, so you get to Sacramento, you land, you haven't slept, maybe you slept on the flight. Talk about the transition, like what happens when you get there? Take people through sort of that process, and then your first time stepping on the floor. I want to know about the differences between, you were just at Michigan at such a high level, but now you're playing NBA players.
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, yeah, first when we got there, I remember it being just a long travel day, but I remember there was like Kings fans waiting at the airport upon our arrival, which, felt really good to just have, the team support, just coming in. And I remember shortly after that, we had like maybe a week after, we started having summer league in Las Vegas and stuff like that. So starting to get your first taste of NBA basketball. But then a couple of months later, once the season starts, you start, getting really excited, it being the real deal, starting to go up against your idols, the guys that you've been watching for years and years and years. And I just remember those first couple of months just going by so fast. There, every game, every practice was going by so fast. Everything felt like it was moving and fast forward. And it was just so much to take in at one time, but definitely super challenging. Like right away, you come in with, such, bright eyes and such high expectations, but it's humbling for sure. You come in and you're also like, okay, these are the 450 best players in the world. And, you get put in your place a little bit. You come in, riding high, coming in from college and, thinking you're the man. And then all of a sudden you go up against, a 32-year-old grown man who's been doing it for 12, 15 years. And then you start realizing, okay, there's levels to this. I got to earn my respect in this league. So definitely I remember having a couple of games where kind of you're welcome to the NBA moment where, whether not necessarily getting embarrassed, but, getting humbled a little bit by
Tell us one of those moments. Give us a little taste of one of those moments.
So you know what? It's actually like most people might not even know this player. He played for the Denver Nuggets at the time. His name was Aaron Aflalo. Had a very solid NBA career, but never like an all-star or anything like that. He was my welcome to the NBA moment. And it was specifically because I checked into the game midway through the first quarter, and he was the shooting guard that was in at that time. And so I guarded him. And Aflalo at that point in his career was like a back to the basket guard. Like he posted up other guards and was kind of like a stronger, almost kind of played like Kobe a little bit in the sense of like the good footwork, the turnaround fadeaways and whatnot. And it was like, I checked into the game and immediately the coach was like, oh, like Stauskas guarding you, post him up. Like, and it was like every possession down the floor, he put me in the post. And I think I picked up 3 fouls in like the first 2 minutes of guarding him, because I was like, he was just backing me down. And I'm like trying to hold my ground, be physical. And I was just outmatched. Like I was 20 years old. It's just still so young, and not necessarily as strong as I am right now. And I remember I got taken out the game after those 3 fouls in 2 minutes. I didn't play again the rest of the night, and just like going back to the locker room after, just being like, just down on myself. But it's like, those are the moments that were like, hey, I gotta, I thought I was ready, but like, I got to work even harder now. And, it was just funny. It was just funny looking back on it, because it wasn't like, oh, I was guarding like Steph Curry or LeBron. It was Aaron Aflalo, like a role player in the NBA, but it speaks to how talented the league is. And just kind of like I was saying, just makes you realize you really have to earn your respect. Oh, and I do have another moment too, where that my first year in the NBA was the time where Klay Thompson set the NBA record with points in one quarter. He had 37 points in the third quarter against the Sacramento Kings. So I didn't receive all 37. Let me be clear. Let me be clear from the start.
I love the
best.
It wasn't all me. It was only 9 of the 37 were on me.
Okay.
But like, I was on the floor for a lot of it. And like, I remember after that game being like, whoa, like there are levels to this game. And again, just a humbling experience, being like, there are some guys here that can really, really play. And like, you come in thinking that you're ready and that you're one of the top guys. And it's games like that where you just realize like, hey, if I want to get to that level, I have a lot of work to do.
Nick, I think that you should bring back the childhood headband, first of all.
I don't know if I can pull it off anymore.
And second of all, take us through you took us through maybe like the more humbling moments, but take us through now your glorious moments. What was the first NBA basket like for you?
First NBA basket. So our first game of the season, first preseason game of my rookie year was in Vancouver against the Raptors. So my first preseason game was in Canada, which was pretty special for me. Even though all my family's from Toronto, they made the trip out to Vancouver to watch that game. So I had a pretty big following there. And I believe my first basket was a corner three. And even though we were playing in Vancouver and it was all Raptors fans, I remember I hit the three, and like I could hear my little family section like going crazy in the arena when I hit the three. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just, just a good feeling, like getting, having your first shot go in, just getting yourself on the board. But yeah, that's what I remember from my first basket.
So you've had multiple big games, but I want to shift to, who would you say, two things. One, who was the toughest player to play against? And when you came into the league, who were you most looking forward to playing against? My childhood idol was LeBron James, and still to this day, I'm a huge LeBron fan. I think he's the best ever. Might be a little biased, but I don't know. So for me, that was like the one that was like marked on my calendar for sure. Like first time playing against the Cavs and going up against LeBron was huge for me. Toughest matchup though, I would probably have to say my first couple years in the league, like I was getting torched by James Harden, and like everyone gets torched. You weren't alone.
I'm not the only. Again, it's not only me. It wasn't only me.
I was on the court when it happened, but it wasn't me.
Man, I just remember every time I played against him, I couldn't stay out of foul trouble. Like the little swing through thing that he does, like especially like early on, kind of when he was starting to do that, and he kind of holds the ball out in front of you, like your natural instinct is to go reach for it. And I just remember like time after time, like reaching for it, fouling him, going to the line, shoot 2 free throws, and the game finishes, and I look and he has 50 points and shot 25 free throws. And that's probably the guy that just an impossible one-on-one matchup. Just really difficult to guard. Can shoot it from anywhere, can handle, can pass, gets into the lane. Just really, just not anything he can't do. So I would say Harden was probably my toughest one-on-one matchup. And I will also put another player in that category, toughest one-on-one matchup when I first came in the league. When I would come in against the Clippers and have to guard Jamal Crawford, it was always a nightmare. You know how Jamal Crawford would come in and get 20 off the bench quick. Again, it wasn't just me, but I was one of the victims. I was definitely one of the victims.
You after the game have a shot chart for the ones that were scored, where you were approximately relative to the score. You're not that bad a defender. Don't give yourself some credit.
I'm trying to give myself some credit. There's some good shooting guards out there, though. Definitely a lot of tough matchups.
All right, I have to circle back because I asked you for your first basket, but what is the moment that really sticks out to you on the court that was like, yeah, that was my time, like that was my moment in the NBA?
I probably my first game with Portland. It was LeBron's first game with the Lakers. They were in Portland, national TV game. It was on TNT. And I think I had like 25 that game. But especially at the beginning of the season, like first game, like everyone's super hyped up. The crowd was really into it. And anytime LeBron's in town, I think the fans are even more so kind of into the game. And I remember coming into that game and like hitting my first like 4 or 5 shots and like just having that feeling that game, like, okay, I have it going today. And for us to spoil, LeBron's debut with the Lakers and, have that game on TV and stuff. I remember that game, just the atmosphere and everything that went into it, just feeling really good about that one. But I mean, the thing that, I played 5 years in the NBA so far, but still have never played in the playoffs. So, I would love to be like, man, this playoff game was like, super, series tied 2-2 and like this happened. But still for me, like that's the goal moving forward, is to like eventually compete in the playoffs and like play in those big time games, because I feel like that's, at the end of the day, that's what basketball is all about, is, really competing for something. And, anytime that there's those nerves and those butterflies involved, I feel like that's when I'm at my best and having the most fun too.
That's awesome. And, like you could still say casually, I dropped 25 on LeBron's team.
And again, it wasn't all on LeBron, but he was on the court. So
don't give him an out. Listen, as far as we're concerned, he was right there for all 25. As long as he was on the court, we're giving it to him. There's LeBron. Obviously, you played with so many greats. You also played against Kobe Bryant. Right? Talk about, Kobe, and if you want some of the other greats, but what's it like sort of sharing the floor with players of that caliber?
Yeah. So my Kobe story, again, Kobe was also one of my favorites growing up. And my Kobe story, super lame, but it meant something to me at the time. I checked into the game against the Lakers. This was it was one of our earlier games of my rookie season. And I checked into the game during a free throw. And Kobe was calling out the matchups, and he was like saying, "Hey, you got this guy," and he was like, "I got Stauskas," and I was like looking around. I'm like, he knows my name. Like, did you guys hear that? And again, like for me, it just, those are the kind of like the welcome to the NBA moments. Like when you're still kind of young, you'd be like, "Oh, okay, now like he knows who I am." Like that's pretty cool. So yeah, but definitely, I wish I could have gone up against Kobe in his like earlier years, maybe like mid 2000s, to like really get a feel for, him at his prime. Because by the time I came into the NBA, he was kind of towards his retirement. Still an incredible player, but definitely not like the same MVP caliber he was earlier on. Also, another cool moment against Kobe was in his last season. He announced his retirement the day before he played us in Philly, and he's from Philly. And that game was pretty cool, just because it was like homecoming for him. He had just announced his retirement. And when I say the entire crowd was wearing, the yellow and purple, like there was not one Sixers fan in there. And I was like, just makes you like feel the significance of like the player you're going up against when your home crowd is all supporting an away player. I remember that being a pretty cool moment too. And like just the ceremony they had from before the game and like introducing them and just feeling like that excitement in the air from the crowd. That was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool experience.
I know like legendary players like Kobe, it must be almost like hard to not be a fan while also playing. Like, as you mentioned, like you weren't like, oh crap, Kobe's guarding me. It was like, he knows my name.
Yeah.
What, have you got to meet any of these legendary players?
Not like, I mean, nothing more than like the dapping the player up on the court and saying good game or anything like that. I would love to say that I, knew Kobe on a personal level or something like that. That would be a dream come true. But yeah, never got to really know him on a personal level. But another thing about Kobe too, actually, that kind of just speaks to like his greatness. I remember that game in Philly. I actually when he passed away, I actually posted this highlight on my Instagram page if people want to go check this out. He was isolated against me on the right wing and he faced up and he was kind of like going into his jab series. And like, I've studied Kobe for so many years. I know what he's going to do. Like, I know the move he's going to do. He does this little rocker jab and then goes baseline. And so I'm like matched up with him. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to bite. And he hits me with the rocker. And I remember my feet being like stuck in mud. Like he completely froze me. And again, at this point in his career, he didn't have the like same speed and athleticism that he did when he was like mid-20s. But it just speaks to like the technical little nuances of the game and the footwork and the ball placement that he still had, where I'm in my early 20s, super athletic and all this kind of stuff, and he just absolutely froze me with a perfect rocker jab and went to the rim, went up and under and finished on the other side. And the crowd went crazy and everything. And I posted that video when he passed away, kind of just like as like my moment where I'm like, dude, I got to play against one of the all-time greats, and he absolutely took me to school. And that's something that I'll carry to the grave with me. It was truly an honor to play against him.
So there's something that's really cool that I think comes out is that you seem to be in the moment, right? Like you're able to sort of take these. Is that fair to say that you're able to sort of take these moments in and appreciate them where they're happening and when they're happening, as opposed to later on after it's all over? Are you sort of an in the moment guy? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, during a game, you obviously you're trying to focus, on the game, and I'm not sitting there being like, oh my God, this is Kobe, or like, I'm trying to focus on the game, but also at the same time, like, especially early on in my career, like really trying to take in and enjoy those moments, and just, you have those kind of like pinch yourself moments where you're like, man, I'm really here. Like that's Kobe sitting 2 feet away from me, and like he's trying to go at me and I'm trying to go at him. Like this is real now. So those moments are definitely pretty cool to just, when you're in the moment, just being like, this is what all the hard work was for.
And, okay, switching gears a little bit now, you've had a very interesting, maybe roller coaster NBA career so far.
For sure.
Take us through what that has been like, even like emotionally, going from team to team, trying to find the right fit. What has that been like for you?
Like, again, there's, like you said, roller coaster is like the perfect word. And really just the growth is trying to been like, find the balance of like not going on the highs and lows. Cause it'll take a toll on you. And especially coming into the league, like being a top 10 pick, and in your mind, you have these expectations, of yourself, and you have, these goals and aspirations that you want to achieve. And it's finding the balance of not getting like too down on yourself when you don't achieve them. But then also still, when, using those failures as motivation to keep going. And that's probably been something that I've struggled with the most is, I definitely have always found a way to use my failures as motivation, but at times they have, they've weighed heavy on me to the point where, you second guess yourself. Do I belong? Should I really be here? Is this all worth it? There's a lot of those moments that you have, when you're by yourself and in the hotel room on the road, and you have time, and your mind starts wandering. You start thinking these things, and that's been the battle for me, is trying to stay even throughout all that, and trying to remain encouraged, especially when, like I said, I never got to this point, haven't got a chance to play, on a playoff team. And so for me, a lot of time it was tough, because even when I felt like, hey, personally, I played well today. If you lose by 20 points, but you played well, it just doesn't sit well. You can't like celebrate it the same way. You can't really like feel good about yourself. And so that was also a huge challenge for me, was the losing aspect of it. Not just like how I played personally, but everyone's used to in high school and college, like you're winning, everything's going well, everything's always going how you envision it going. And then it's like, how do you react when it stops and all of a sudden things aren't going the way you thought they were? Definitely has made me mature and grow in a lot of different ways over the years, faced like a lot of adversity, and it's definitely been super challenging. It's still something I'm trying to work on to this day, but I feel like I definitely approach things with a different mindset now, and I'm hoping that's going to help me moving forward. But yeah, definitely super challenging going through those ups and downs.
And this is a super weird question, but what's the feeling of being traded? What is that like, getting that call? I'm assuming usually it's from your agent. What is that feeling? Does that obviously adds to what you're saying?
I guess it was different in every situation. Like when I got traded from Sacramento to Philly, kind of knew it was coming. And in a way, like after the first year I had in Sacramento, I was looking for a change. So I was kind of excited about it. When I got traded from Philly to Brooklyn, that most people don't know, but that was actually a trade that I requested. And so I was happy about that as well. The one that really hurt me was when I got traded from Portland to Cleveland. Like that one was like one of the ones that was like, I was like crying, like didn't really know like it just caught me so off guard. And like for me, I was part of the Blazers, and we were 4th place in the West or something. And for me, I'm like, hey, finally you get to play in the playoffs. Like this is what it's all about. I'm finally going to be competing for something. And then, 2 days before the trade deadline, getting traded to Cleveland, and just being like, and I remember going on my phone. The first thing I did, I remember I went on my phone and looked at the Eastern Conference standings, and like Cleveland was like dead last in the East. And just like being like, damn, like just so upset. Like you don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. And then I remember getting to Cleveland, and there's still being like 48 hours until trade deadline, and my agent being like, hey, yeah, there's possibilities that they're going to make more moves. So like you might be traded again. And I'm like, what do you mean I might get traded? I just got traded. Like what? Like I thought I'm here. And he was like, no. And then I remember I'm there in Cleveland for a day. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't even my agent called. I found out on Twitter through Woj. It said Nick Stauskas traded to the Houston Rockets. And me and my
Woj
bomb. Me and my wife were sitting in the hotel, and we were like, oh, so I guess we're headed to Houston now. And then my agent calls me and he goes, no. So you're not, stay put, stay in Cleveland. Houston might be making more moves. So like, don't, you know what I mean? So I go to sleep that night. I'm with the Houston Rockets, but I'm in Cleveland, waking up being like, well, I don't know if I'm going to be on Houston today or if I'm going to go to another team. And then I remember, grabbing some lunch that day. And like, I think trade deadline was at like 3 p.m. or something like that. And at like 1 o'clock, my wife's in the bathroom, and then I'm like, oh, honey, we just got traded to Indiana. And then, at that point I call my agent. I'm like, okay, so we're going to Indiana now. And he was like, no, well, I think they're gonna have a buyout here. So like, you're not going to Indiana. And I'm like, dude, just tell me, like, where am I going? Like, just keep it real with me. Where am I going? And that 48 hours going from Portland to Cleveland, Cleveland to Houston, Houston to Indiana, Indiana buying me out, and then just being a free agent, like that was one of those roller coaster moments where, again, you just like, you're sitting in the hotel and you're like, well, if I keep getting traded and this team traded me here, this team, do I belong? Like, is this really what I should be doing? And again, those are the challenges that the NBA brings, just mentally more than physically, where you have to really believe in yourself and just have that confidence that, no matter what anyone else thinks of you, all that matters is what you think of yourself. And that's, again, like I said, one of the things I'm still trying to work on.
Wow, Nick, like, thank you for sharing all of that. Like, I know, like, we don't really get to hear every single day how players really feel when they get traded. So it's not easy, and it must feel like, like what are you worth if you're just keep on getting moved from team to team. Now, I don't know if you can expand at all on what you kind of touched on earlier about requesting the trade to go to Brooklyn. Did you see a better opportunity there? Like, what was the thought process behind that?
So when I requested the trade from Philly, I didn't necessarily request to get traded to a certain team. I wanted to be out of Philly at that time. And it was nothing against, I actually love the city. I met my wife in Philadelphia, and we actually live in Philadelphia in the off season. So I have love for the city, and have love for the organization. But at that time, between injuries and them bringing in, JJ Redick and a number of other guys, they had just drafted, Markelle Fultz and Ben Simmons and all these guys. I just wasn't playing. And I was at the point in my career where I felt like I could be contributing if I was given the opportunity. And I felt like my value was high enough that, I would just be better off being somewhere else. And so I respectfully went to Brian Colangelo, who was the GM at the time, and asked him if he would be okay with trading me. And that was something that he was gracious enough to do for me. And it actually happened pretty quickly. Like, I had a meeting with him, and I think I was traded like 3 or 4 days after. So it was something that, again, it's like bittersweet, because it's like, I was there for 3 years, and like, you have all these memories with, your teammates and coaches. And to this day, one of my best friends that I've ever had is TJ McConnell, who was on that team with me. So it was like, it's hard to like leave, but career wise, I was just feeling like I had gotten everything out of that I could get from there. And I just felt like it was time to move on.
The NBA is such a tricky place, and a business. I think there's that side of it that you have to learn, right? It's not just about playing the game and being your best, but there's a whole business side to it that you almost can't take personal, right? Is that fair? For
sure. And that's probably the most difficult thing, is everything does feel personal, and it really isn't. No one is sitting there trying to do you wrong, or, trying to, screw over your career, or trying to trade you to the wrong place. All the moves that are made are calculated moves by professionals who are trying to do the best for their organization. And so as hard as it is, you really have to look past that and just try not to take it to heart. That's really all you can do.
Let me take you to the bubble. You're back, you're in the bubble. What are your thoughts? How does the Raptors 9 to 5 come about? And what are you most looking forward to this short season?
Yeah, the 905 thing, it kind of came out early January. The Raptors were actually one of the teams that I was in talks with throughout the fall about potentially going to training camp with. So there was already some mutual interest between myself and the Raptors, and I ended up going to training camp with the Bucks on a non-guaranteed deal, and they didn't have any roster spots available, so went to camp but didn't work out, and so kind of moving forward, looking for a spot in the G League, and the 905 were showing interest, and like I said, the kind of relationship and mutual interest was already there, so felt like it was a good fit playing for the hometown, and for me, more than anything, just looking for a good opportunity to play. I played my first year overseas last year in Spain, and end my season short in February. I got surgery on my knee, and so up until this point, it had been a full year since I have played 5-on-5 real games in a competitive setting. And so more than anything, I was just looking for an opportunity to play and prove myself. And the 905 were a team that was, willing to give me that opportunity, and they believed in me. And so, like I said, there was that mutual interest there, and getting to know the coaches and the players that we have. I think we really have a good group of guys, all good people, good work ethic. And I feel like we all really want to be a part of something special. We all came here to win. And at the end of the day, like, it sounds cliche, but like, that's what basketball is all about, is competing to win. You don't step on the court to try to lose. So we're all coming in with that same mindset. And Coach Mutombo has really been open and honest about really wanting the best for all of us. He's not naive. Like, he knows every single one of us, aren't in, we're not here in the G League because this was our childhood dream to play in the G League. He's said that to us. Every last one of us wants to play in the NBA, and we're here because this is a step for us to get back, or to get to that level that we want to be. And Coach Mutombo has just said, he wants to do everything in his power to help us grow and teach and get us to that point where, we could play in the NBA. So I just feel really good about the team that we have. Everyone's looking forward to competing every night, just going through these, initial practices, training camp, and scrimmages. I feel like we have a very talented team, and, even some of the guys from the Raptors who have come down, Malachi Flynn and Jalen Harris, very talented young guys who can really play. They can really play. So we have our first game on Wednesday, and I believe it's 15 games in 25 days. So a lot of busy schedule coming up, but I think it's going to be a good opportunity for us to get in a great rhythm, just with kind of the frequency of games, and we'll see where this thing takes us.
I think, Nick, you said it right there, 15 games in 25 days, and it's a very talented team. When you think about your role exactly, like, you're a leader on the court, you have the most NBA experience out of all the guys. How are you balancing being that leader, developing your own game, but then also winning in the G League?
Yeah, it's honestly, I've always kind of struggled, especially just throughout the NBA. Like, throughout my NBA career, I've been like one of the younger guys always on the team. So I've never really taken on that leadership role. So when I got here, I kind of like had to like remind myself, I'm like, I have the most NBA experience here. I'm one of the older guys. So I was like, I do need to kind of step outside my comfort zone and be a little bit more vocal than I would normally be. So that's something that I'm working on throughout my experience here. And hopefully it helps me, continue to grow and just expand kind of the tools that I can bring to a team. But yeah, at the same time, for me, I'm more than anything just looking forward to playing and getting some form of rhythm back. Like I said, it had been about a full year since I had my surgery and since I've played a game. So just super excited to like have that feeling again of like going up and down and competing and just having fun again. That's really the main thing. I want to get back to having fun and enjoying the game.
Speaking of having fun, while you're doing that, what are you wearing? What kind of shoes are on your feet as you're lighting them up from the logo?
This year I'm wearing the Freak 2s, I think they're called, the Giannis, the second edition shoe. Really big fan of his sneakers. They're very comfortable. Probably one of my favorite basketball shoes I've ever worn. So yeah, I'll be wearing those all season.
A question I wanted to circle actually back to, and it's a bit of a cheesy question, so bear with me. But if you could give advice to your younger self from where you are now, what would that be?
My advice to my younger self, it would probably be kind of just stemming off that, that whole roller coaster, ride that we were talking about. Just, it's really easier said than done, but I just wish I could go back and really like mentor myself, or just kind of show myself the ropes on how not to get too down on myself. Cause there were some times early in my career where I really like lost a lot of confidence in myself just because of the situation that I was going through, or, the team losing a lot of games, or, my minutes being up and down. And just wish I could have found a way to stay more like level headed throughout all of that, and maybe not let it get to me as much. But again, easier said than done. And had I not gone through that, I probably wouldn't have, learned the things I've learned now and been the person I am now. So I guess everything does happen for a reason, and hopefully I'm a better basketball player, better person because of it.
And kind of just piggybacking off of that, a lot of people with your level of NBA experience might look at their opportunity in the G League with, oh man, like this is technically a step down, blah, blah, blah. But like you have a very positive outlook and optimism to you that you're bringing into the season. What's keeping you grounded? Why are you so happy? Why are you so optimistic?
Man, exactly kind of what we said 3 years ago. If you had put me in this situation and said, hey, you got to go to the bubble and play with the G League, I'd have been crushed, to be honest. I would be really upset, and probably I would have looked at it as a step down, and, would have acted like the sky is falling and, like the world is ending. But again, I just have a different mentality now, and just going through the adversity and the failures that I've gone through has taught me to just be more of a positive person and just try to make the most of these opportunities. Like I know at this point in my career, treating this like a step down or being negative about it isn't going to help me in any way, shape, or form. Like it's just not going to do anything positive for me. So as hard as it is to stay positive when, things aren't going the way you are, there's really no other way to approach things. If you don't approach things with a positive mindset, and if you don't believe that you can get something out of this experience, then you won't get anything out of it. So again, like I said, in a way it's good. I mean, I wish that everything had always gone smoothly and, everything is, roses and sunshine and everything, but definitely glad I learned the things that I did, and hoping they help me moving forward for sure.
Speaking of helping you moving forward, mentors, which vets in the league have you been able to lean on or have helped you sort of through this time? And that can include coaches.
Well, I mentioned my good friend, TJ McConnell. I think he has maybe 6 years of NBA experience now, so about the same as me, but just him being one of my best friends, definitely good to have him on my side, and we still stay in touch all the time. And he's been one of the guys who's also been helping me stay super positive and encouraging me no matter what. But I've had some good teammates throughout my career. Even my rookie year, I had a teammate. His name was Carl Landry. I don't know if you guys remember Carl Landry. He was probably one of my favorite teammates I've ever had. And as crazy as my rookie year was, and as fast as everything was moving, he was always one of those guys to like kind of just put his arm around me and just be like, "Hey man, it's gonna be all right." Like you know what I mean? Like just always making you feel good about yourself no matter what. And I just remember like that rookie year, like always just being glad I had him as a teammate and always feeling encouraged when I was around him. But yeah, it's interesting because you look at the NBA and like a lot of your experience as a rookie and like I guess what you learn is going to be dependent on the teammates that you have around you and the kind of the veteran presence that you have. And I think one of the tougher things for me too was after my rookie year in Sacramento, when I got traded to Philly, our whole team was like it was kind of like the trust the process era. Our whole team was like a bunch of like 20, 21, 22-year-olds. So like we didn't really have any veterans around us to like help us through help us navigate through a losing season or all these different kind of things. So that was also probably one of the tougher experiences of my NBA career too, was like trying to just like navigate on yourself, like not really having that veteran presence around. And in a way it kind of helps the young guys kind of learn to lead and grow by themselves. But definitely looking back on it, would have been like nice to have some more like vets and so like just the veteran presence around us.
Because without saying, you played with some not so friendly teammates as well. And you don't have to get into it, but I know that makes it difficult as you're sort of venturing through your journey.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in any business, whether it's basketball or any business in the world, not every relationship you have with your coworkers is going to be perfect, and not everyone's going to get along the perfect way. And that's part of the game, is finding a way to have a successful team, even if you can't always see eye to eye. And I think that's what makes the best team special, is their ability to kind of put that to the side and work around it and still try to achieve that common goal of winning.
I want to hear your thoughts on the golden team of the bubble, Ignite, and how you're feeling, especially given the experiences that you've been through yourself as a player and the bumps and the bruises you've taken along your path. What are your thoughts on their path and what they're going through right now?
They have Amir Johnson and Jarrett Jack, two former Raptors, actually, on their team as a veteran presence. And I think that's kind of cool, just to have those guys there to mentor them. Like you said, it's important to have those guys around to show the ropes to these young guys and just kind of mentor them as much as they can. But yeah, I think it's a great experience for them, having the chance to kind of come out of high school and pursue somewhat of a professional career right off the jump. I think this is a great setting for them. They don't have to travel or anything. We're all in the same place. And like we said, 15 games in 25 days. It's just really not a long season, but kind of a good amount of experience in a short amount of time for these young guys, and a great opportunity for them to kind of showcase their talent. And, who knows, some of these guys may be lottery picks this year, first round picks.
So that was an NBA vet's answer to saying, you know what, they're gonna see what it's really like playing against grown men when the ball gets tipped up. I respect the answer.
Yep.
He's got the smile. I respect it. Question for you: you came to the bubble, you've had to pack. What was the one thing that you said, I cannot leave home without? Got to come with me.
Massage gun right here.
That's a veteran right there.
Yeah, that's where you know he's the vet.
the hyper volt. Got to keep the muscles loose. Got to keep them ready to go.
Very nice, very nice. And we've also seen you on TSN in between seasons and in your off season. Is broadcasting potentially an avenue you're thinking of after you hang up the sneakers?
You never know. It's something that I've enjoyed doing. I'm so passionate about basketball. It's something that I truly love. And who knows? Maybe when I'm done playing, if that's an opportunity that presents itself and something that I'm interested at that time, I would maybe pursue that. But yeah, so far, I think I've done like 3 seasons of Raptors playoffs, and I've absolutely loved it. Like, to be honest, I think I like working in the studio even more than I like being at the games. Like, there's something about being in the studio that's really fun to me. I don't know what it is. But yeah, it's been a great experience. And the cool part about it is I feel like every summer that I did it, I got a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable each time. And seeing that progress was cool for me, because I'm like, oh, maybe this is something I could do later on in my career if I really put all my attention and focus on it. The only thing is no one likes listening to themselves. Like when you hear your voice, or like you have to watch yourself on TV and then you're like, oh, I don't like the way I look or sound or whatever. The worst part about it was when I started, my parents would DVR all my like segments on TV, and then I would come home from TSN, and then they would sit down with me and make me watch my segments. And it would it would make me cringe, because I hate listening to myself talk. Like, I absolutely hate it. And they would be like, you're saying, you're saying like, you're, what I mean? They would like critique my work. And it sucked watching it, but they were like, if you're going to be on TV and you're going to be doing this, you need to take it seriously, and you need to, look professional, sound professional, all this kind of stuff. And so because of my parents, the film study helped me grow and actually helped me improve a lot on the job. So I'm grateful that they made me do that, even though it didn't sit well with me, like actually watching myself at first.
Well, you're well-spoken. even on this podcast, is the way that you navigated the Ignite conversation, as well as just your whole storytelling for everything that, this whole podcast has been. But, it is uncomfortable to watch yourself back. I remember, like, even as a former player, like, watching myself at first play, like, that was uncomfortable. But then later on, watching yourself on TV, being like, oh no, and how many people were watching? Oh man, I messed that up. But don't worry, yeah. I feel like you have it potentially down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's an option I'm going to keep open. I don't, there's nothing like in particular at this point where I'm like, this is for sure what I want to do when I'm done playing, but it's definitely a great option to have. And very grateful that TSN was just willing to give me that opportunity. Because when they first gave me the opportunity, I had zero experience working on TV, and they kind of just said, hey, yeah, we're okay with you messing up and making mistakes. And they didn't have to do that. So I'm very grateful that they gave me that chance.
Shout out to your parents for cracking the whip and keeping you on track.
Yeah.
Are they both from Lithuania? Is that correct?
No, they're both from Canada,
okay.
But 3 of my 4 grandparents were from Lithuania.
So Lithuanian descent. Have you been?
Yes, I've only been once. It was a couple summers back. I went with my brother and one of my friends just to visit and just like kind of see, where my grandparents came from and experience the culture and stuff. And definitely a really small country. I think we drove from one side of the country to the other in like 3.5 hours. Like, it's like a very small country. But it was cool. The culture was awesome. Got to see, a lot of different things, see how just how everything worked. And I don't know if I would ever want to live there, but it was cool. It was cool to visit.
What's another place? One place, because basketball, as you know, takes you all over the world, right? You have so many cool opportunities. What's one place that you would love to visit that you haven't had a chance to get to yet?
Well, I mean, last year when I played overseas, I really got to visit a lot of places that were on that list. I kind of traveled all over Spain and all over Europe, to be honest. Trying to think if there's one place in particular. I don't know if there's, you know what? The one place that I have on my bucket list, not like to play basketball, but to just like visit, is Mykonos, Greece. That's like the one place for me that I'm like, that's like a bucket list place where I'm like, the views there look incredible, looks like super peaceful, super romantic. I was like, I need to take a vacation with my wife there. That's like a for sure bucket list thing.
She's listening to this right now saying, yes, sign me up.
She definitely is.
Nick, this has been a slice, man. Been a lot of fun. Yes, I do have one question. Speaking of slices, not quite. I heard
pizza, or I thought you were gonna ask like a pizza question or like something
kind
like
of
that.
related because something
anything
to do with
but
sauce.
pizza.
Pizza Nova.
Oh,
that's some good stuff. Something to do with sauce, pizza, slices, maybe not quite. You have a nickname?
Yeah.
What is it?
The nickname is Sauce Castillo.
Okay, please explain.
All right, so long story short, my rookie year, I during a game hit a 3 and there was a closed captioning error and on TV, and the closed captioning error said, basically instead of it saying Nick Stauskas for 3, somehow, some way it said Sauce Castillo for 3. And to this day, like, I don't know how or why that happened, but it did. And after the game, I go on Twitter. I think that game, I had a really good shooting night. Like I hit a bunch of 3s. And so the fans were like, it's a sign, like he should be Sauce after this. Like it's just meant to be. So I went on Twitter after the game and everyone was like, great game, Sauce. And like all this stuff about Sauce. But like, obviously when I'm in the game, I didn't see the closed captioning error. So I'm like, why is everyone calling me Sauce? Because I've never been called that before in my life. And then whatever, I do my research through Twitter and I find out, someone sent me a screenshot and they showed me the whole thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like thinking that it was going to last like 1 or 2 days. And then somehow 24 hours after it happened, I had a hot sauce deal. Like I had my own hot sauce and like there's this whole thing in production. And yeah, to this day, I'm still somehow Sauce Castillo. It's really just stuck with me.
Okay, two things.
do you
One,
like
you
it?
need to send us some of this hot sauce.
Yeah.
Because we like a little spice, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer, it was like a 2-year thing. Like, it wasn't like a full-time thing. They made like a certain amount of bottles for 2 years, and it was actually really good. It was comparable to Frank's Red Hot.
Okay.
Like it wasn't spicy, but it was like it was like a nice flavor that you could like have with like if you're having like chicken wings or something like that. That's kind of like the stuff that I would use it on. It was good. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like the best hot sauce ever, but I had it all the time. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I don't know.
All right, Nick, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us here on the Raptors 905 podcast. It's been awesome to get to know you better and talk to you guys.
No, thank you for having me. I appreciate all the questions, and yeah, it's been great chatting with you guys.
Thanks, Nick.
That was an awesome conversation we just had with Nick. Man, the sauce story really got me. I was like, really? It was a closed captioning error this whole time?
Right? Like, and Sauce Castillo, listen, people get shoe deals, people get, clothing deals. Not everyone gets a sauce deal. So that's big time, a pretty cool story to hear.
And I really appreciated how he really opened up and was vulnerable about how he felt when it comes to getting traded in the NBA. I know it's an emotional process for these guys, and it's something that you don't hear about every day. I feel like there's a lot of pressure around, keeping a tough face and like, yeah, it's no big deal. I got the next team, no problem. But really letting us have that inside view really spoke to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of that narrative that these guys they make millions, they have no problems. They all of a sudden, because they have, healthy paychecks, they're not allowed to be human. And I think it was really neat for him to share that and be honest and open about it. And that's why we asked the question, because, we never often hear how people feel about getting traded. And it was really neat to hear that experience.
Well, it's a pleasure talking to him and having that conversation. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's going to do on the floor with the 905.
It's going to be I was going to say a big season, but a big shortened season for Nick Stauskas. A big shortened season.
Shortened season.
There we go.
Let's take it. Thank you guys, the audience, the viewers, the listeners, for listening to the Raptors 905 podcast.